Everybody, this is your Monday check-in. Hope your shred is going well and hope your weekend was fantastic. So as I put in the WhatsApp chat as well, often the weekend can be one of those times where you kind of fall off the wagon a little bit. We used to usually get in a good flow during the weekdays because it brings a lot of stability. And then as soon as that stability is gone, the eating habit tends to change. It's the same going on holiday. Now, unfortunately, in the weekend, there is plenty of damage to be done to mess up what you're trying to do for the rest of the week. So if you are someone who eats very well through the week, but then kind of struggles throughout the weekend, it'll be good to get some structure built in your weekend to not completely fall off the wagon, to make some better choices. There's a variety of ways to keep doing that. One of my favorite ways is make sure you wake up at the same time. I know people love their sleeping, and there's nothing wrong with the sleeping. But building that structure by waking up at the same time can really set yourself up for a good day because your rhythm stays the same and usually your hunger signal stays the same as well. If you are used to eating 3 meals a week, and then on Saturday, you sleep in, you wake up at, let's say, 10 a.m., maybe have breakfast at like 11, maybe you'll have another meal, like a small meal, because you're not really hungry at 1 or 2, and then come evening, you're kind of starving, and you make less than optimal decisions. If this sounds familiar, then maybe getting up a little bit earlier, getting that breakfast in, make sure you eat a good lunch is going to be paramount for you. Now, maybe that's not applicable to you at all, but realize that if you tend to make bad decisions in the evening, often, not always, but often, it means that you're just not eating enough during the day. You're not getting in enough volume of food. I'm not necessarily talking about the amount of calories, because it has been shown that if you eat lower density foods, so foods that contain less calorie per gram of food, like vegetables, if you eat more of that, your calorie intake tends to go down. That's why on the commandments, we put the 800 gram challenge very much first. It is probably the most important thing, followed by getting enough protein in. So, make sure you try to keep that structure of your weekdays in the weekends. Then try to get a decent second meal in. And if you do notice yourself getting hungry in the evening to the point where you're just looking for snacks, you're roaming the hallways of your house, looking for the Tim Tams, maybe it's time to up your nutritional intake during the day, but try to stay away from those dense caloric foods, like donuts. So, veggies, fruits, put them first. Protein, super important, not just to maintain muscle mass, but also that satiety index. Like we talked about before, protein makes you feel fuller, so less chance of you getting those snack vibes towards the end of your day. Second thing I want to touch on is holidays. So holidays are very much in the same track of weekends. It's hard to stay in any sort of rhythm, in any sort of structure on holidays. Now, if you go on 1 or 2 holidays every year, don't worry about it. Eat whatever you want, like enjoy yourself, right? It's not the time to be on a diet if you're visiting another country for the first time and you want to experience that culture through the food as well. Absolutely reasonable. Try not to diet, right? However, if you are traveling 6, 7, 8 times a year, maybe you travel for work, it's important to have structure again, because now you can do a ton of damage through those work trips. I shared the story a few times, but one of the first time I went on a plane was with my family to Spain, and my dad bought me a block of Toblerone. And since then, every time I hop in a plane, I feel like Toblerone, which is absolutely fine because I tend not to go on too many plane trips. So if I want to get some Toblerone, hey, that's cool. However, when I was coaching the national team and we had to do a lot of plane trips, like 5, 6, 7 times a year will be on the plane, that's hard because I also have to stay in my weight class. So it was time to change that habit. Like, I just couldn't justify eating a whole block of Toblerone every time I jump on a plane. Same as for you. If you go on one holiday a year, or you're going on that holiday of a lifetime, maybe you're going to Africa, or maybe you're going to the best country in the world, you know which one. Eat whatever the culture has to offer. Eat the cookies. But if you have to travel for work, often it is important to create that structure. It is important to try to get into that rhythm and not fall off the wagon every time you have to go out of your normal environment. Now, the last thing I want to discuss to you today is a question I got end of last week. And I've gotten this question very, very often throughout my years as a personal trainer, and even more often it comes as a statement. The statement is, yeah, I need to lose weight. I just need to eat less carbs. The question was, Rex, why isn't there anything about carbs in the commandments? Now, I've touched on this in the manual a little bit, so it shouldn't really come as a surprise. But I do want to go into a little bit more detail today with you. So we know, basic practice, that if we get in less calories, we burn more calories, we will start losing weight. We also know that over time, that calorie burn will come down until the point that you're back in balance and your weight loss stops. Then it is time to drop that calorie intake again and watch it all happen again. So the calories is really one of the most important things. Protein has been shown to be right up there with calories, and carbs have been shown not to make much difference. And this is how that works. So the reason we say that carbs are not as important as protein is because of a very interesting study that was done in which they had 4 groups, and they put those groups through 1 full year of tracking their diets and gave them a simple instruction for nutrition. The first group was normal protein, and normal protein was considered 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight, and normal carbohydrates, whatever that meant for the study. The second group, normal protein, but lower carbohydrates. The third group, high protein, normal carbohydrates. Now they took this up to 2.2 grams per kilogram of body weight, so quite a bit of protein intake. And number 4 was high protein and low carbohydrate. They tracked those people for 1 year. Now it's important to know that the calories were evened out. So each group got the same amount of calories in during this process. So it's not that one group had less calories. The calories were evened out because we know that's the most important thing. Now, thing to consider is that the groups with low carbohydrates lost more body weight, especially in the beginning. Now, listen to what I say, they lost more body weight. They did not lose more fat. Yeah, and that's what we're talking about. Because they lost more body weight, they lost more water, they lost more fluids, and they lost more muscle mass. The higher protein lost more body fat, but less overall body weight. So setting themselves up for a more long-term solution. And this is where the overall myth, and I put it in air quotes, but the overall myth of carbs make you fat or lower carb diets are the best approach for fat loss comes from. Because often when we lower our carbohydrate intake, not only do our bodies get less glycogen ready in their stores, because glycogen is how carbohydrates are stored in the body, we also hold less water. So that is why, let's say you started to shred and the first thing you did, not what it said in the manual by the way, but the first thing you did is you say, you know what, I'm gonna lower my carb intake. Maybe the first week you noticed a big drop in body weight. That's not fat, right? Because to lose fat, you need to be in a calorie deficit for a pretty long time. We know it takes 7,000 calories of deficit to lose 1 kilogram of fat. If in 1 week you lost 2 kilograms and all would be fat, we know that's 14,000 calories of a deficit. It's not uncommon for people to, as a baseline to maintain weight, have 2,000 calories. So that it would pretty much only be possible to get there if you ate nothing, if we say it's all fat. But that's where that idea comes from, that low calorie diets are the best because boom, the body weight tends to drop really quick. However, the fat mass does not do the same thing, and we've known this for a very long time. Even in the 70s, there was an experiment where two groups, one went on a low calorie, pretty much ketogenic diet, and the other group went on a same calorie but normal carb intake, so carb, protein, fat, all were represented in that group. The group with the lower carbohydrates, or the no carbohydrates, lost more body weight. They also lost a lot more body mass, where the group with the higher protein, higher carb intake lost more body fat. So that is why I don't hammer on carbohydrates, because we know for the vast majority of people, it's not that much of an issue. Now, notice a lot of mumbo jumbo. But what I want to bring home is that just lowering your carb intake is not a be-all, end-all solution for everyone. It might not be the best solution for you. You might see an initial drop in body weight, and then all of a sudden we stagnate. That's because you lost a bunch of fluids, and now the energy balance might be back again, and that's all you lost. You lost fluids. As soon as you take a higher carbohydrate meal again, you pop right back up. So if you feel absolutely fantastic on a low carb diet, there is nothing wrong with it. Just know that a lot of the weight that you lose especially the initial weight, tends to be fluid. It's much more important to keep that protein high and work on lowering your overall calorie intake by, for instance, eating more fruits and vegetables, making sure you're getting enough water in, keeping your protein intake high, all those good things that are listed as your commandments. Now guys, I hope this makes sense. If you have any questions, please let me know, and have fun shredding this week.